Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the 17th chapter of the 4th canto is titled as Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. So very quick recap that Maharaj Prithu, once he was coronated, he was glorified by the various brahmanas and the professional reciters in various ways as the perfect ruler, as one who is just, the protector. And smilingly, Maharaj Prithu, he says, how can you glorify me when I'm just born? So he hasn't done anything. He had just appeared out of the body of Vena. So let me actually do something that is worthwhile, the glorification. And the Brahmanas, of course, understanding the position of Maharaj Prithu as an plenary portion of the Lord, and they continue with the glorification, which the king smilingly accepts. After that, he is approached by his citizens, and the citizens are lean and starving, and they say that we haven't been able to get a proper meal because the earth is just not producing enough grains. So King Prithu, he thinks about this for a long time, and then he understands that the reason for this is that Mother Earth has been withholding the grains within herself. So this is the Satyug when there really wasn't any need to cultivate. Everything was appearing by its own. And the only effort that was needed to cultivate was the proper performance of yajna. So Maharaj Prithu gets angry at Mother Earth because he realizes that while all the yajnas have been performed, the personification of earth is still withholding the grains, which is causing the starvation. So in great anger, he takes out his sword and he begins to chase the personality of the presiding deity of earth. And wherever she goes, he begins to follow her. So finally, when she realizes that there is no other way to escape, then she surrenders to him. And now what we see is a conversation. So beginning from verse 22, Mother Earth gives a set of reasons that why it is improper for Prithu Maharaj to chase her in this way. And Prithu Maharaj, he in subsequent verses had addressed each of those objections. So what I'll do is, because we're regrouping after a while, I'll summarize. So I'll read the verse 28 and then I'll summarize the objections by Mother Earth and the counter reasons that are given by Maharaj Prithu. So I'll do verse 28. Evam manyo mayi murtim krantam eva vibharatam Pranata pranajali praha mahi sangyata vepatuhu. At this time, Prithu Maharaj became exactly like Yamaraj, and his whole body appeared very angry. In other words, he was anger personified. After hearing him, the planet Earth began to tremble. She surrendered and with folded hands began to speak as follows. So from this verse 28 till the end of the chapter are prayers by Mother Earth to pacify Maharaj Prithu. So we notice that earlier on Mother Earth was trying to escape from Prithu Maharaj, first physically. She was running all over the universe. So physically she was trying to distance herself from the king. And when she could not, then she was trying to escape by words, by tattva. She was giving all these reasons why it is improper for Maharaj Prithu to pursue in this manner and try to harm him. But in both ways, Maharaj Prithu bested her. Physically, wherever she went, she saw the king was present there with sword in hand. And then whatever reasons that she came, Maharaj Prithu, on the basis of the scriptures, negated the reasons. So let's do a quick recap of the reasons that were given by Mother Earth and the negation by Prithu Maharaj. So in verse 18, she said that you are situated as the king of the earth. So not proper for you to try and harm me. And Maharaj Prithu negated that if you accept me as a king, then you should accept my orders and rulings. Because you have disobeyed them, then it is proper for me to punish you. He says that in verse 22. Then again in verse 18, Mother Earth says that you are dharmagya, one who knows the principles of religion. And Maharaj Prithu said, yes, I know the principle of religion. And the principle of religion is that as a demigod, you have accepted your share of the yagyas, but you have not reciprocated. So you are duty bound to reciprocate. And because you have not, it is you who has violated the principles of dharma. Third reason, in verse 19 and 20, Mother Earth says that it is sinful to kill a woman. And Prithu Maharaj counters in verse 26 that any cruel person, be it a man, a woman, or an important eunuch, may be killed by the king. Such a killing can never be considered as impious. So, if a criminal commits an activity that is known to be sinful, then it is actually the duty of the king to punish the criminal. Not punishing the king, the criminal accrues sins to the king. So Maharaj Prithu is saying is that actually by not punishing you, I will become sinful because you have committed a sin. This he says in verse 26. In verse 17, Mother Earth says that it is sinful to kill a cow. And Prithu Maharaj in verse 27 says that you are Maya Gam. He says you are not a real cow, you are a fake cow. Presently, you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Then in verse 18, Mother Earth says that I have surrendered unto you, and it is your duty to provide shelter to the surrendered. And the king says in verse 24 that you are not surrendered to me. Because if you were surrendered to me, you would follow my orders. So this is a point that Srila Prabhupada would make very often, that surrender is a very practical thing. Surrender means to follow instructions. So one cannot just say, I'm surrendered to you. It's not a state of being. It's basically a state of doing. When one person says that I'm surrendered to my guru, it means that if the guru says to do the following things, chant 16 rounds, get up early in the morning, follow the regulative principles, then the person follows that. That is surrender. So Maharaj Prithu is saying that you're saying you're surrendered to me, but you're not. Because if you were surrendered, you would follow my orders. And my orders was to please deliver the herbs and grains that were hidden by Brahma, that were formerly created by Brahma, and now you have hidden within yourself. Then again in verse 18, Mother Earth says that you are the protector of all living entities. So here she is addressing Maharaj Prithu both as the plenary portion of the Lord and as the king. And Maharaj Prithu replies in verse 25 that, yes, I am the protector of all living entities. Therefore, it is my duty to satisfy my hunger-stricken citizens who are crying for want of grains. So what I am doing is in accordance to my position as a protector of living entities. In verse 19, Mother Earth says that I am sinless and unprotected. Therefore, you should not harm me. And Prithu Maharaj responds in verse 23 that because you are willfully committing offenses, you are sinful. And because you are sinful, you are punishable. Then in verse 19, Mother Earth asks the Prithu Maharaj that do not be envious of me. And Prithu Maharaj responds in verse 27 that I am not envious of you. It is you who is puffed up with pride and has become almost insane. Then in verse 20, Mother Earth makes similar point. She says is that you should be merciful, you should be a protector, and you should be a shelter of the poor. Similar point she made in verse 19 where she said, I'm sinless and unprotected. And Maharaj Prithu responds with the similar point in verse 25, saying that yes, because I am merciful, protector, and shelter of the poor, I need to satisfy the crying citizens of my kingdom. So we see how the object of all this is being changed. Mother Earth is making herself as the object. That you should protect me, give me shelter, you should be merciful to me. And the king is changing the object, saying that I should be merciful to my citizens, I should be protecting them, I should be helping them. And this is where the principles of dharma come in. So one may argue that why is the king protecting his citizens and punishing Mother Earth when both of them are worthy of his protection? So Maharaj Prithu, he makes this point that my citizens have not done any sinful activities. They have not performed any, they have not committed any offenses. So just like within a kingdom, if one citizen attacks another citizen, the king appears to be partial. He says that, okay, I'm going to protect this citizen and I'm going to punish the other citizen. But that partiality is on the basis of the principles of dharma, which is essentially what Maharaj Prithu is emphasizing over here. The last point that Mother Earth makes is that your kingdom and your people are held up by me. So she's saying that if you kill me, the planet Earth will be destroyed. And I'm like a boat that is carrying all these people in the ocean. They will all fall into the Garbhodaka ocean and be destroyed. And then Maharaj Prithu displays his Aishwarya Bhav over here. And he says, don't worry. I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. Says that in verse 27. So with all this, now Mother Earth understands that she does not have a moral platform to stand on. Prabhupada in the purport says that the personality of Godhead is death personified to miscreants and the beloved Lord to the devotees. In 1034, the Lord says, Mrityu sarva haras chaham, I am all devouring death. Faithless unbelievers who challenge the appearance of God will be delivered by the personality of Godhead when he appears before them as death. Hiranyakashipu, for example, challenged the authority of the personality of Godhead, and the Lord met him in the form of Narasimhadev and killed him. Similarly, the planet Earth saw Maharaj Prithu as death personified, and she also saw him in the mood of anger personified. Therefore, she began to tremble. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any circumstances. It is better to surrender unto him and take his protection at all times. Okay. And this table, I'm not sure if I've already sent it. If not, I will send it to Prem Kishore Prabhu, which gives the argument between Maharaj Prithu and Mother Earth. Okay, verse 29. Now we see the prayers by Mother Earth. Dharo vacha nama parasmai purushasya mayaya vinyastanana tanave gunatmane namaha swarupanubhavena nirduta dravya kriyakarak vikramaromai. The planet Earth spoke, my dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are transcendental in your position, and by your material energy, you have expanded yourself in various forms and species of life through the interaction of the three modes of material nature. Unlike some other masters, you always remain in your transcendental position and are not affected by the material creation, which is subject to different material interactions. Consequently, you are not bewildered by material activities. So Bhumi Devi could understand now that Prithu Maharaj is an expansion of the king, and therefore prays to him in that mood. Since he was angry with her, the first step she takes is to pacify him by glorifying his position. So we see a similar mood in the 10th canto when Lord Balram was angry at Yamuna Devi. So when he was doing his Ras Leela with his own gopis, and then he wanted to take a bath in the river, and then he ordered her to come, and Yamuna Devi, thinking that he was intoxicated, she neglected the order. So then with his plow, he began to drag her towards in the land. And then Yamuna Devi immediately, the personification of Yamuna river appeared and pacified Lord Balram. We see the same thing in Ramayana also, that when Lord Ram was sitting on the banks of the ocean and meditating on the ocean, asking him to give a way by which his army can cross, then Samudradev did not appear for 3 days. Lord Ram was fasting and meditating. And then when Lord Ram began to cast his angry glance, then immediately Samudradev appeared. So in both the cases, we see that like Samudradev, when Lord Ram, simply by casting his glance, began to heat the water of the ocean, he could understand the position of Lord Ram. And similarly, when Balram began to, with just his plow, began to pull Yamuna Devi off her course, she understood the position of Lord Balram. So Mother Earth also over here, when she saw that Prithu Maharaj was able to travel all over the universe without a problem. And when Prithu Maharaj said that I can uphold my entire praja by my own mystic powers, she understood the position of Maharaj Prithu. So she says that although you are in contact with the material world, you are completely transcendental to all forms of material existence. And she continues saying, I offer respect to you who has many bodies like mine made of matter, because you are composed of the gunas. So in the second canto, Sukadev Goswami, he describes the universal form of the Lord as Mahitalam tad yagyam mahipate, that the hips of the universal forms are Mahital. So the middle planetary system, which is Earth. So it's a little interesting to see that the first prayer that Mother Earth is giving to the Lord is describing that his body is material and composed of the gunas. It's a little counterintuitive. So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that as long as one does not realize the Swarup Shakti of the Lord, they will see him as material composed of the gunas like that of the other embodied being. Only by realizing the Swarup Shakti of the Lord, one completely understands that the Lord is free of samsara. Samsara is the modes, the interaction of the modes, which is created by the body, senses, and the sense devtas. So he proceeds to say that if one is not able to see the Lord as spiritual, then the recommendation is to see the Lord as matter. And with that understanding, one will gradually cause one to progress. That is why we see that when Sukadev Goswami begins to speak, the very first form of the Lord that he describes is seeing the form of Lord in matter. And the reason is that is or for a materialist, that is the first access to the Lord. That they can see the trees and the mountains and the rivers. And when Sukadev Goswami connects them to the Vishwarupa of the Lord, then that is their bridge to the eventual spiritual form of the Lord. Mother Earth is herself making that transition now. That earlier on, she was considering the king to be just another person. But now that she's understanding that he's actually the personality of Godhead, she is transitioning over. So she is sharing her realizations. So first she is seeing the Lord in matter. So which is why she is glorifying him. So Prabhupada says in the purport, as far as the material body is concerned, there are 6 waves or symptomatic material conditions. So what are the 6 waves? Hunger, thirst, lamentation, bewilderment, old age, and death. And Prabhupada says that the liberated soul is never concerned with this 6 physical interaction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the all-powerful master of all energies, has some connection with the external energy, but he is always free from the interactions of the external energy in the material world. So Prabhupada is essentially following the realizations of Mother Earth, that while she is seeing the Lord in matter, but she is also understanding that he is the master of these waves. While he has some connections with the external energy, he is never controlled by it. Now, this is also an indication that the Lord, who is transcendental to the modes, should not be angry. Prabhupada says, the Rupa Goswami says that the devotee who is always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is always liberated, regardless of his material situation. If it is possible for a devotee to remain transcendental, it is certainly possible for the personality of Godhead to remain in his internal potency without being attached to the external potency. There should be no difficulty in understanding this situation. Just as the devotee is never bewildered by his material body, the Lord is never bewildered by the external energy of this material world. So we see the implicit glorification by Mother Earth, because being angry is in a mode of ignorance. And Maharaj Prithu has been displaying anger. But the point that Mother Earth is making, that you are not bewildered by material activities. So the anger that you are displaying is only for the purpose of protecting your devotees and purifying me. So in pastimes of Krishna, we see Krishna getting angry, and we see him getting bewildered also, right? When Shalya killed, or the Maya copy of Vasudev, Krishna got bewildered. When the Gopas entered into the mouth of Agasur, Krishna got bewildered momentarily. But all these are essentially Krishna using this for a purpose. Krishna using anger to serve his devotees, to guide his devotees, or to set an example. Srila Prabhupada also, we had his devotees, his disciples had the same observation. That one moment he would be very angry at a disciple because he had done something wrong. And when the disciple would leave the room, then he would resume his preaching or talking or discussion as if nothing was happening. Shrutikirti Prabhu says that then he could realize that Srila Prabhupada was only using anger as a tool to correct his disciples. That he was not becoming angry, but he was using anger. So Mother Earth is making the same point, that if anybody reads this pastime and thinks that you're angry, they are the ones who are in illusion. Because you can never be angry, because you're transcendental to the modes. Okay, verse 30. Yenam atmayanam vinirmita Dhatrayatoyam gunasarga sangraha sa eva mam hantum udayudah swara upasthitonyam sharanam kamashraye. The planet Earth continued, "My dear Lord, you are the complete conductor of the material creation. You have created this cosmic manifestation and the three material qualities. And therefore, you have created me, the planet Earth, the resting place of all living entities. Yet you are always fully independent, my Lord. Now that you are present before me and ready to kill me with your weapons, let me know where I should go to take shelter. And tell me who can give me protection." So in the previous verse, Mother Earth had glorified the Lord as being unaffected by the material creation, which included her. So Maharaj Prithu might say that if that is so, then according to your words, I have no attachment to you. Thus, it is okay for me to kill you. So Mother Earth answers this implicit question in this verse and says that one should not kill the creeper that has been planted by one's own hand. Since you have created me, you should not destroy me, especially since I am also assisting you. I am the shelter of the jivas. In me are the protection of the four types of living beings. The four types are those that are born from the embryos, eggs, earth, and perspiration. So this is a little different from the debate that Mother Earth was having earlier on with Prithu Maharaj. Here, she is asking for protection in the mood of shelter and submission. She is not staking a claim. Earlier on, she was trying to use nyaya, logic. That as per this rule, you should not kill me. You're the king, you should protect me. Now she's saying that you're the Supreme Lord. You created me. So tell me, how can I take your shelter and get your protection? So this mood is very similar to the mood of an aspiring devotee. That before the jiva is a devotee, then he is bahirmukhi. He's looking to take shelter wherever he needs, in other people's senses, material things. And then because of that, he is constantly seeing the Lord as death personified. And when he begins to take to devotional service, then he begins to turn to the Lord and says that I do not want to see you as death personified anymore. Tell me, how can I take shelter of you? And the answer, of course, is through the process of devotional service. So this is the mood of Mother Earth now changing from one of challenging the Lord to taking submissive shelter of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says that the planet Earth herein exhibits the symptom of full surrender before the Lord. As stated, no one can protect the person who Krishna is prepared to kill, and no one can kill the person whom Krishna protects. So this is actually a Bengali proverb that Srila Prabhupada was very fond of saying, Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe. Okay, so he's translating it and paraphrasing it here. Then he says that because the Lord was prepared to kill the planet Earth, there was no one to give protection to her. We are all, now he changes the focus to us. We are all receiving protection from Earth. It is therefore proper. We are all receiving protection from the Lord. It is therefore proper that every one of us surrender unto him. Later on, he says, Bhakti Vinod Thakur sings that, my dear Lord, whatever I have, even in my mind, the center of all material necessities, namely my home, my body, and whatever I have in connection with this body, I now surrender unto you. So this is a song by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Manasa De Ho Ge Ho, Jo Kichu Mor Aar Pilo, which is essentially a verse of surrender. Okay, verse 31. Yo dadava vaschacharam swamaya tamashraya vitarkaya taveva soyam kilogoptam udyataha katham numam dharma paro jagam shati. In the beginning of creation, you created all these moving and non-living entities. You created all these moving and non-moving living entities by your inconceivable energy. Through this very same energy, you are now prepared to protect the living entities. Indeed, you are the supreme protector of religious principles. Why are you so anxious to kill me, even though I'm in the form of a cow? So Prithu Maharaj has said that the world is created and destroyed by me. Mother Earth is saying that while this is true, your role is currently that of maintenance. Because creation has already happened, destruction is in the future. Currently, the Lord is in the role of maintaining. Since you are currently engaged in maintaining, it does not behoove you to kill me. Prabhupada says the planet Earth argues that there is no doubt that one who creates can also annihilate. So she's questioning that why she should be killed when the Lord is prepared to give protection to everyone. So again, this is not in the mood of debate. Mother Earth is saying that I have a right to perform devotional service to you. So the killing of the Lord, or the killing by the Lord, earlier on was Mother Earth trying to protect her physical existence. At this point, she is claiming that if you do not give me shelter, if you do not give me access to your lotus feet, then I am as good as dead. So so as it is said that Jivere Surupoe Krishna Nityadas, that it is the right of every living entity to render devotional service to the Lord. Mother Earth is saying that it is my right also to have access to your mercy. Please do not withdraw your mercy from me. Verse 32. Nunam vateshya samahitam jane tanmayaya durjaya kritambi nalakshyate yastva karodakarya yunika eka parataschaishvara. My dear Lord, although you are one, by your inconceivable potencies, you have expanded yourself in many forms. Through the agency of Brahma, you have created this universe. You are therefore directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are not sufficiently experienced cannot understand your transcendental activities because these persons are covered by your illusory energy. So essentially what Mother Earth is saying that Maharaj Prithu, you were saying that I'm irreligious. No, but I am not anymore. The truth is that your powers are difficult to understand, especially by those with bewildered mind. And as Brahma, you create the universe. As Vishnu, you create Brahma. And as Shiv, you destroy. So you are one, but you appear as many because of the influence of Maya. So this is an ongoing mode of surrender, of understanding one's own position, dainya. So understanding one's fallen position. So Mother Earth is admitting that my mind is bewildered because of the influence of Maya. And because it is the nature of the mind that is influenced by Maya to not comprehend the position of the Lord. So I was not able to understand who you are. However, that does not mean that I was irreligious. It just means that I was bewildered and being conditioned. This is a fallibility that is commonly existing amongst conditioned souls. So it's like if somebody is sick in the hospital and a person comes and says, you run in a race. The person is obviously not going to do well. And then the person says, well, you did not run well in the race, so you need to be punished. So the person says, but I was in the hospital, I was sick. You knew that I'm not able to run properly. How can you expect me to run the race? So Mother Earth is making the same point. That I'm a product of this material world. I'm bewildered by the influence of Maya, and your position is difficult to understand by ones who are bewildered by Maya. So it's not proper for you to punish me thinking that I am being rebellious, that I am being irreligious, but it is proper for you to understand my position for what it is and then extend your mercy. Okay. Verse 33. How are we doing with time? Okay. So we still have some discussion. Prem Krishna Prabhu, what should we do? I did say that I would finish in 30 minutes, but it's...
Yeah, it will take another 15-20 minutes probably. Let us continue and then we can ask questions and
okay.
come again.
Verse 33. Sarga... Excuse me. Sargadiyo Shayano Pranadi Shakti Dravya Kriya Kara Chetana Tamavi Tasmai Samunnada Niruddha Shaktaye Namaha Parasmai Purushasya Vedase. My dear Lord, by your own potencies, you are the original cause of the material elements, the performing instruments, the senses, the workers of the senses, the controlling demigods, the intelligence and the ego, as well as everything else. By your energy, you manifested this entire cosmic creation, maintain it, and dissolve it. Through your energy alone, everything is sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest. You are therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So this verse is essentially a summation of the points that were made in the previous 4 verses from 29 to 32. So Mother Earth is summarizing that I'm offering my respectful obeisances to the possessor of the inconceivable energy, that he carries out creation with his energies comprised of body, senses, and devas, intelligence and ego, for the needs of his devotees. I'm reading the summation of Vishwanath Chakravarti here. So he has great samunada and contrary energies. He has preserving and destroying energies, both of which are strong. You are the master who can maintain and destroy anything according to your desires. I offer my respects to you. So Prabhupada explains the inconceivable energy of Krishna by an analogy that a complex machine may be operated by the push of a button to perform many activities. He says, similarly, the personality of Godhead pushes the button of creation, and different energies create the material elements and various controllers, and the subsequent interaction follows the inconceivable plan of the personality of Godhead. So, there is a preaching point over here, and I'll cover it briefly, that people who follow the path of spirituality or religion, they subscribe to the philosophy of top-down causation, which means that when they're looking at cause and effect, they begin from the Lord. That the Lord does this, he creates Brahma, Brahma does this, and then Brahma creates the Prajapatis, Prajapatis did this, and so on. So it's top-down causation. The scientists, they look at it as bottom-up. So taking the example that Srila Prabhupada gave, that let's assume there is a complex machine that you push the button and it does something wonderful. So the devotee will look at it top-down, saying that the person comes and pushes the button and then something happens, and finally this comes out of it. The scientists will, on the other hand, look at it bottom-up. They will start looking at the various parts in the machinery, how they interact with one another, how that interaction further is controlled by maybe some circuitry, how that circuitry is controlled by maybe some microprocessor. So it is easy to see why the bottom-up causation analysis is going to bewilder the person very quickly. Because if you start looking at the individual parts and how they interact with one another, while you may be able to define the function of the parts, but the fact is that you are, from the leaves, you're looking at the forest, as opposed to looking at from the forest to the leaves. Which is why the scientists, they may establish the laws of gravitation and the laws of motion. So this is all bottom up. This is how the parts are working with one another. But then, how do you go up? How do you see that, how these things fit in a bigger picture? And then further go up and see that who put this all in place. So preaching is basically not really negating the bottom-up approach, because they're correct. The laws of motion are there. The laws of gravity are there. So it's not that the spiritualists deny them. But essentially what they say is that these are cogs. These are components in a much larger machinery. So just because there is a law of gravitation does not mean there is no Lord. Just because there is the law of relativity does not mean that there is no higher intelligence. It just means that you're not able to bridge that gap. Okay, verse 34. Savai bhavan atma vinirmitam jagat bhutendriyantaha karanatmakam vibho samstatapshiyannacha mam rasalata abhyujaharambhasa adi sukraha. My dear Lord, you are always unborn. Once in the form of the original boar, you rescued me from the waters in the bottom of the universe. Through your own energy, you created all the physical elements, the senses and the heart for the maintenance of the world. So there is a saying that if one protects somebody else, then the person becomes responsible for the welfare. So when the the pastime of Krishna and Arjun burning the forest of Dantakaran and Maya Danav running out of it and taking shelter of Arjun. Arjun said, I protect you. And then he was willing to fight with Krishna to protect Maya Danav. Same principle, that because I have protected somebody, now that person continues to remain in my shelter. So Mother Earth is saying that earlier on, when I fell to the bottom of the ocean, then you protected me. So now you should continue to protect me. In the Ishopanishad, verse 17, the devotee prays that let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. And because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So this is the devotee begging protection from the Lord by reminding the Lord of his past acts of devotional service. Now, Mother Earth is not explicitly talking about her devotional service, but she's indirectly referring to it. That the fact that you protected me means that I had your Kripa Drishti. So, which means that I must have done some devotional service to attract your mercy. So please remember that bhakti, the devotional service that I had performed for you, and continue to give me your protection. Prabhupada, in the purport to this Ishopanishad verse, says that the Lord does not need to be reminded. In fact, the devotee may forget, but the Lord does not forget. So the verse is actually there to reassure the devotee that anything that you do as a service, Prabhupada would say, you turn a screw in the service of the Lord, you may forget, but the Lord will not forget. However, in anxiety, Mother Earth is reminding Prithu Maharaj of his past mercy on her as a reminder that you have given me shelter in the past, so you should continue to give me shelter. Verse 35, Apam upaste maina vyavasthitaha praja bhavanadya rirakishu kila savira murti samabhuddharadharo yumam payasya ugrasharo jigamshasi. My dear Lord, in this way you have once protected me by rescuing me from the water, and consequently your name has been famous as Dharadhar, he who holds the planet Earth. Yet at the present moment, in the form of a great hero, you are about to kill me with sharpened arrows. I am, however, just like a boat on the water, keeping everything afloat. So Mother Earth is reminding Prithu Maharaj that you are protector of the earth in the Vara avatar. You are my husband. You protected me with the desire to protect the citizens situated upon me. Now, why do you desire to kill me for milk? So these points seem to be similar, but the mood is different. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that the meaning is this, that your progeny were my children situated in my lap, and I constantly nourished them with my milk. Seeing their evil ways at this time, I, as a mother, to teach them good moral character, have become angry and do not supply them milk. You, the master of the house, punish me from that. So Vishwanath Pad is indicating that the Mother Earth is now also giving a reason that why she was withholding the grains. Not because she was disobeying the Lord, not because she was angry or envious, but she was actually doing it as a service to her husband. Because during the reign of Maharaj Vena, he was sinful And under his influence, people became sinful. So they stopped glorifying the Lord. And Mother Earth said that it's my duty to make sure that my children are properly respectful of my husband, which is you. So because they were not being respectful to you, I was angry at them. And that's why I was withholding the grains. Okay, next verse, 36. Nunam janer ihitam ishana iswaranam asmad videstad gunasargamaya nagyat mohet chitavartamabhis tebhyo namovira yashaskarebhya. My dear Lord, I am also the creation of one of your energies, composed of the three modes of material nature. Consequently, I am bewildered by your activities. Even the activities of your devotees cannot be understood. What to speak of your pastimes? Thus, everything appears to us to be contradictory and wonderful. So Mother Earth, you see, was using different. She was using logic. She was relying on the scriptures. Now we see that. So this is ultimate surrender. She's saying that, what do I know? I know nothing. Maybe I thought that by withholding the grains, I was punishing the people who were not your devotees. But then I see that you are trying to punish me. And maybe in my own mind, I was thinking that as a woman, I should be protected. As a cow, I should be protected. Maybe I was thinking that I'm one of your creation. I have a right to your bhakti. So there are so many things that I was thinking. But then what do I know? Even I cannot understand the activities of your devotees. What to speak of you? So I am completely surrendering to you. So this is the ultimate form of surrender, which is not that one surrenders without reason, but one surrenders understanding that all reasoning will ultimately be met with some level of, at some point, cannot be rationalized. Right? So as Lord Kapila says that when begins to understand that the Lord is inconceivable, then only does the person begin to conceive the Lord. That's the real surrender. Prabhupada says the activities of the Lord in various forms are always uncommon and wonderful, not possible for a tiny human being to estimate the purpose. Jiva Goswami has said that unless the Lord activities are accepted as inconceivable, they cannot be explained. Very important point. Especially when we are discussing with others, preaching, then sometimes we try to rationalize it. That why did Krishna appear as a child? Why did he consort with the wives of other people? Why did he steal butter? And then we say Krishna was reciprocating with his devotees, or Krishna was performing his leela. But ultimately, we have to understand that the reason Krishna does all this is because Krishna wants to do all this. So Krishna can never be accepted on the platform of logic. The platform of logic is there to reinforce those who have already accepted Krishna. The logic is not there to help one accept Krishna. That will never work. You must have had experience trying to preach to one who has not accepted Krishna with logic. It's not going to work. But within devotees, one can understand that at this time Krishna was displaying Aishwarya Bhav. At this point, Krishna was like here we see Prithu Maharaj apparently getting angry. Someone might say, why was he getting angry? He could have done something else. He could have reasoned with Mother Earth. He should not have threatened her like that. Yes, he could have done anything, but he chose to do this because that is what he wanted. Vishnu Chakravarti says that Mother Earth is saying that though the wives of the devas or the sons and servants may believe that you will kill me, I do not believe that you will kill me. Your desire is not understood by such persons who wander around, bewildered by the Lord's ignorance, Maya, in the bodies of devas, men and animals, guna, but have taken shelter of your lotus feet. I offer respect to he who brings fame to persons renowned for charity. If you are merciful to me, then the fame of such charitable persons will be, if you're not merciful to me, then the fame of such charitable persons will be gone. So Krishna gives fame to those who give in charity. And Mother Earth is saying that I give so much in charity by supporting your children, the Jana. If you punish me, then the fame of charitable persons will be gone. So this is an alternate explanation given by Mother Earth. I have also summarized the prayers of Mother Earth, and in the interest of time, I won't go through it, but I'll send the table to Prabhu and he can share that. So at this point, I will stop and see if we have any discussions. If not, then what we can do is we can probably, Prabhu, stop the streaming on YouTube and recording, and then we can have a discussion in terms of the format. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Priyankar Prabhu.
Yeah, and on one point I want to share, Prabhuji, like in the end of the class, you are mentioning